Okay, cool. I'm gonna go live, let it roll, and then hit the pre-stream, and we're good to go. So as you guys can hear each other, I think we're fine. And you look fine. You guys both look
Great.
good on the stream. So.
Perfect. Good morning and welcome to Millionaire Brand Creation. I'm your host, Michael Banovac, and really excited to have a friend of mine here today who two-time icon agent at EXP, definitely a big producer and also a good guy and a great team leader. Collin, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, doing fantastic. Freezing a little bit out here up in beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but doing great. How you doing down there, Michael?
It's raining down here, but overall it's been nice weather. So, Collin, let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about you growing up. Where are you from, and how did you get that entrepreneurial bug?
Yeah, so absolutely. So originally, Casper, Wyoming, of all places. My parents. A bit of feedback here.
Yeah, if you got
I
some
can hear you.
headphones.
Okay, perfect. Anyways, yeah, no. So grew up in between Houston, Texas, and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area. Um, my parents met in Wyoming because of the oil business. My mom was a petroleum engineer, and my dad was an accountant. Worked his way up into the C-suite, and so had two parents with business and entrepreneurial backgrounds. I should say my mom went into the entrepreneurial side. She was actually a realtor for 38 years,
Oh
and
wow.
so yeah. So multi generation realtor as far as that goes. Um, and I caught the bug for real estate uh, with house flipping. So actually, back in about 2008, I was working for a public accounting firm, KPMG, a Big Four firm in Anchorage, Alaska, and bought into my first house flip in 2008, as the market was kind of crashing. And between those two flips, I made more money in 6 months than I did the entire year working 80 hours a week for a Big Four public accounting firm. And I went, gosh, there's got to be more to life than this.
This is your life. Yeah, this is what you want to do with it. So, after your first flips, what made you want to become a real estate agent, and what kind of gave you the bedrock to get going and making sure that you had the right, the right actions in place, et cetera, to become successful?
So, sorry, I'm trying to get this adjusted here. So, anyways,
It's all
no,
right.
what really, a little bit of technical difficulties getting used to this here. But, anyways, so what really made the difference for me and kind of the drive there was, as I was flipping a lot more houses, getting the information timely and being able to have that data. And what I noticed is that I was struggling to get that stuff in an accurate time frame. And so I realized I had to have access to that data. I had to have access to the MLS. So as a flipper, that's what really kind of made the difference for me.
Mm.
My first year in business, after of actually being a real estate agent and not just a flipper, we ended up doing 77 deals to the tune of 7.7 million. So we were hustling. It was average price point at 110,000, buying a
Wow.
lot of flips for 40, 50, 60K and flipping them in that 130 to 150 range, which doesn't even exist anymore, at least in our market.
Where did you find them? Did you find them on MLS, or did you find them cold calling, or did you find them in other avenues?
There were quite a few different ways that we went about it. There were a few that were the real estate owned, the REO route. There were a couple that we negotiated the short sales on. There were a couple that we would go down to the courthouse steps and actually buy them, at the
Mm.
courthouse steps. There were some that were just word of mouth, people that actually needed cash for keys and were bad situations, and we were able to kind of help bail them out of those bad situations. So it was a variety of different ways that created that. But yeah, no, we definitely had a plethora of different ways to kind of find that. Did do a lot of cold calling, especially when we'd look up, back then you'd have expireds that were short sales that you'd go check the county records and they hadn't foreclosed yet. So people just
Oh,
kind of gave
wow.
up on the short sale process. And so that was kind of a unique avenue as well to pick up those properties.
And how did you get the funding in that time?
Well, some of it was self-funded, some of it was hard money. There were a number of different hard money lenders out there, not like there are today. It's kind of amazing. I've noticed that there's a lot of different transactional type funders and things like that that exist um, that weren't around then. There were a couple of different resources we went to, but yeah, I mean, a lot of hard money, a lot of 8-10% interest rates with 2-3-4 points up front, depending upon the way that they wanted to structure that. And we were turning these. We had good crews. So what was the equivalent today of like a $300,000 house that you'd purchase to flip for maybe 450 was a 100,000 house that you'd put 30K in rehab into. And with inflation and everything else now, we're probably looking at 80-90 for the same
Yeah.
things, the same set
Yeah.
of cabinets, appliances, flooring, paint, et cetera, to put into that same product. But anyways, it was knowing your procurement schedule, timing out what it was going to take to finish that flip, and then kind of going from there.
What were some of the failures that you saw during that time? Like, what were some things you really learned from where you're like, I'm never going to do that again?
Having a good real estate attorney.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, very litigious business, obviously.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that say they're going to do things and they don't show up. A lot of contractors that think that they can get to things and don't have time. And getting things in writing, making sure that
Mm.
your business partners are all on the same page. It's not that you don't trust someone. It's just that you want to make sure that everything is ironed out up front so that you don't have those issues.
So how did you transition from a high volume house flipper to a highly successful real estate agent dealing with clients? What was that transition like for you?
It was a really interesting time. Probably about 2012, 2013, we started to see the REO market dry up, and I had a couple of bank-owned accounts that I worked with, et cetera. But we started to see those REOs dry up, and the time for business had to change. And so much of what I started doing was the cold calling that I was doing to pick up short sales and to pick up potential flip properties turned into cold calling for expired listings, for canceled listings, and going after that level of clientele. Then, additionally, getting involved in various different organizations, whether it was through the home builders
Mm.
or some of these BNI networking groups. Just getting out there was the next step. Being out there, being known, so people would see you, was a huge step in the right direction as far as that goes.
And then what was the catalyst that really brought your business to the next level? Because I know you're probably in the same boat as me. A lot of agents contact you, they're having issues with their business. They're maybe having issues procuring listings, or once they have listings in today's market, they don't know what to do in order to sell them in a timely manner. What do you think was part of your secret sauce? What did you do differently than the most to get the kind of success that you had in your business?
There were a variety of different things. I'm a big believer in that no professional advantage lasts forever, but always
Mm,
finding something that is different and differentiating yourself. And again, I know a lot of people say this, but there's a reason that the successful people say it. It's because it's true. When you can differentiate yourself, unfortunately, let's take a step back here. Most people look at a realtor as a commodity. You have
hmm.
a set commission rate. You all do the same thing. You're shining up that same Ford and trying to sell that and sell different features to make it sound like you're differentiating yourself and making yourself different. What you
Right.
actually have to do is have an actionable plan that differentiates yourself in such a way that you can be distinguished and you are no longer a commodity. And that was where that success, that's where that came from. But it was constantly honing that craft. There wasn't I can't point to any one specific thing. It was just knowing that there's a process associated with it, And anytime that I would go to a listing appointment or any kind of client meeting, I had a clear picture in my head as to what I wanted to occur there. Now, does that mean that it always happened? No, absolutely not. But all that said, my vision was clear in terms of what I wanted from that interaction, and that made a huge difference for me.
So what was your main goal? Like, obviously, when you jumped into real estate, did you jump right in with EXP, or did you have another brokerage that you jumped into? And then what was like your 5 or 10 year plan? What were you trying to accomplish overall?
That we could take up the rest of the time with that question. No, it was a longer term thing. So actually, after leaving the public accounting world, and not flipping houses so much, but getting into real estate, the first brokerage that I joined was Keller Williams. That was back in late 2009, early 2010, and that was a really really brief time frame. It just wasn't the environment that I was looking for, as far as growth and moving forward and everything else. And again, this was still kind of wearing a traditional agent hat mindset, not the hat that I have now. Went from Keller Williams directly over to Remax. Spent virtually 6 years at Remax. Ended up owning a Remax franchise with my mom
Oh,
here in
wow.
Portland, Idaho. That was the next route. And the thing that really was difficult with that kind of a route, because a lot of people kind of want to, that are agents that excel, they're upsold on that format, that hey, this is the next step, is to own a franchise. Remax was very big on that. There are a number of other brokerages that push that, and that's okay. There's something to be said for that. But when you are a producer, um, that can get very difficult. And if you're not out with people and out in your environment, going out and being productive, that tends to be a drain to your bottom line. And you can end up spending a lot
Mm.
more money on running that brokerage, and your time value of money goes down because where you're used to being successful out there in the field goes by the wayside.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't focus on their money making activities, right? I mean, if you're doing like you did, what, 111 houses in 1 year or something like that, that's far more lucrative than babysitting a couple of agents hoping they sell a house, obviously. So how do you figure out the best weight of your time? Like, how do you figure out the metrics of this is going to serve not only me but my agents and our company the best? How do you come up with that formula in your mind?
Well, I'll break that down into a couple of different steps, because one of my favorite books was The 4 Hour Work Week. And what I took from that, or gleaned from that, was that as realtors, we really have two work products. It is being on the phone negotiating deals and actually executing and writing contracts. That's it.
Mm.
Those are our only true money making activities. That's the only things we produce. So everything else is Fugazi. Those are things that you can farm out. Those are other activities that are not directly linked to getting business, or actually towards your work product. So one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, and it's not been for uh, lack of trying and falling down and getting back up, is finding the right people that I can delegate those tasks to, that are not the money making activities. If it doesn't
Mm.
directly relate to going out and negotiating deals or actually getting contracts done, then that's something where I have to take a step back from that as an individual agent. Um,
I got a
now,
question for you. I got a
yeah,
question for you.
absolutely.
So here's the big one I always get, right? If you were an agent starting out, and or an agent, let's say in their 50s, that has plateaued in their business, and they really want to take their game to the next level, and they said, Collin, if you had to do it all over again, all your money was stripped from you and all your resources, how would you do it? What would you recommend that they do?
I would quote Haas Pratt and say, all roads lead to the phone.
Mm.
Get back to the phone. Get back to the phone. Get back to your network. Um, that's where your value is. Your network is your net worth.
Hmm.
And now, and I'm assuming we still have our network if we don't have our money in that question, correct? I don't
Correct.
know. So if we still have that network, that's going to be the most valuable way to get back on top, to get that back. If I was to lose everything tomorrow, the first thing I'd be doing is pounding the phones. I'd be calling and talking to people, getting out there, getting in front of people, and not necessarily getting that commission breath and sounding like some sort of a salesperson, but coming off and identifying that problem. In sales, the most important thing to know is that you're not trying to sell something, you're trying to identify a problem.
That's a good
Grant
one.
Cardone talks about it in Sell or Be Sold. Definitely want to give credit there. There are a number of others, but you need to identify the problem. And if you are trying to elevate to the next level and get your game going, you've got to identify that individual's problem that's in front of you at that time, and what can you do to push them forward. And if you're on the phone with people, maybe it's expired, it's identifying that problem. It's like, hey, which is a much more direct sales approach. I mean, you've got a warm lead when you've got an expired phone call, if you're talking to somebody in that, and in any form of sales. We can take this away from real estate. We can take this into any form of sales. If you've got those warm leads, you have to identify that problem and find out how you can best solve it. Uh, that's the thing that I try to teach my team, to not have that. And I use the term over and over again, but it's because I believe it is that commission breath. People smell desperation.
100%.
And this is a market that we're coming into where there's going to be a lot of desperation. There's a lot of people that are going to leave this industry. Even at our brand of EXP, it's been predicted that we're going to lose about 20,000 agents. We have, I can't remember the last statistic. I think it was over 2.5 million realtors in the United States, of which only 90 or of 90+% didn't even conduct a transaction.
Yeah.
So you're going to see that cost of staying in the game not be worth it for certain individuals, and there's going to be opportunity that arises out of that. The guy that thought it would be great to sell mom and dad's house and thought it was easy, that this was an easy way to make money. Those opportunities are going to go away, those people are going to go away, and the opportunities are going to arise for the people who are serious and who are in that and are willing to identify those problems and identify solutions for people. Look at yourself as a consultant as opposed to a salesperson. And these are just some of the conversations that I have with my team.
How important is unspoken marketing in the marketplace? And what I mean by that is, what I've noticed, especially in high ticket sales, a lot of it is what is not said, but in fact, what is presented, right? Your word choice, your attire, maybe your car, maybe the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you give gifts, the way that you talk to people. How important is that, do you think, in building a brand in this type of environment?
I think when people see that, they see your level of success, and it lends an instant sense of credibility. I think it's knowing what level to be at. If I'm out showing farm and ranch type properties, you're not going to see me show up in a 3-piece suit. You're going to see me show up in boots or cowboy boots, or work boots and a jacket and a sport coat, looking good, looking the part, but not overdoing it and not looking out of place. Now, if you're selling a luxury condominium, that might not be the look. You better have Culhane's on, and you better have at least a Brooks Brothers suit on, and be looking sharp to look that part. And that's a truck might need to be traded in that day for a luxury vehicle.
So about calibrating to fit the client base, right?
Fit the client base so that they can know you, like you, and trust you. And again, I feel like I might be quoting Gary Keller there on that one. But I think it's very important that your clients feel comfortable with you, that they know that you're going to be able to identify that problem, and that you're going to be able to solve that problem for them. That comfortability level has to be there. They have to know that and if you're in luxury real estate,
Yeah.
they have to know that you have the type of clientele that is going to be interested in their particular property. If you're showing up to the party in camo sweatpants and a sweatshirt, hoping to list a $5 million property on Lake Coeur d'Alene, man, you better have a better end than just your attire, because that's going to be a problem. And I name that as a scenario because I've seen it in person on a listing appointment that I walked out of and saw the next person, and I went, I got this one.
Well, it's funny. There's a saying that's thrown around a lot in real estate, especially in Scottsdale. I don't know if it's like Idaho as well, but you've heard the term "fake it till you make it." My term has always been "learn it until you earn it," meaning you have to understand the calibration of what's going on and what you're trying to sell. Because the highest end salespeople, like you said, are filling a problem, right? They're filling the metric and they're creating a sense of desirability and unease. Meaning, what I've realized, the highest ticket sales, it's the person that cares the least that gets the most. I don't know why that is. When it's a beautiful woman, a $5 million house, whatever it is, if you're really desperate to make that sale, you're done because they
Yep.
sense desperation and they're out immediately. But these are all leading questions, right? I walk into an open house, I remember the other day, and I wonder if it's like this in your market. And I'm like, what's the traffic been? Have you guys gotten any offers? No, we've been empty. We haven't gotten any offers. I'm thinking, guys, you got to have a more compelling narrative. I mean, even if it's a slight exaggeration, circuitously, you have to establish that what it is that you're selling is in high demand. What do you feel about that, and how do you communicate that to your
That is
agents?
beautiful. Let's take that scenario you just used. If I'm that same agent, or if I'm teaching my agents in terms of what to say, number one, don't lie, but
Right.
it's okay to fluff things up a little bit. Hey,
Yeah.
what's your showing activity been like today? Our showing activity has been phenomenal. What does that even mean? Is
Yeah.
that quantifiable?
Unbelievable. That doesn't mean
Are
anything.
you asking the right, or it's unbelievable?
Yeah.
Exactly. Are you asking the right questions? Most people don't ask the right questions. So all you're saying is you can say the same thing, but whether you want to be negative or positive, whatever you believe, you're right.
Mm. How
That's
do you
that's the
how,
oh, go
how
ahead.
do you get a lot of negative agents, out of this mindset? Because what I'm seeing a lot now in business, more than I've seen the last couple of years, and everyone was fat and happy and making big money, is a lot of people now are unloading, right? They're very negative in their thought process. How do you turn that negative into a positive, and how is that relating to your sales process and your success?
Well, gosh, I'll tell the story that I told on Christina Creighton's podcast, um, because I feel like it's very valid. You can buy into that negative mindset. So much of your network is important in being around people, and I believe I told you this story when we were down in Las Vegas, where
Mm,
I bought into that negativity. I bought in for a
mm,
little while and said, "Gosh, the interest rates are terrible." When full well I knew I was buying properties and flips and things like that with way higher interest rates. But I bought in for a while. I bought into the negativity and went, gosh, you know what? This is going to be tough. We're going to have to buckle down. The investment market's going to be good, et cetera, et cetera. And the simple thing was that negativity was not serving me. It
mm.
absolutely wasn't serving me. And so I put it aside. I just literally pushed it to the side. I said, this doesn't work for me. This isn't serving me. And I got back to doing what I know best, which was getting out in front of people. The next 3 weeks after I put that aside, I listed 15 properties in 15 days. 7 of which are already are in contract or have sold since then. And this was only about maybe 6 weeks ago. But it's easy to
Wow.
buy into that. The thing is that this business is 90% mindset and 10% skill set. If you've got the
Mm,
right mindset and dovetailing in with what you said, the least amount of interest when you know that you can solve that problem, but you're not so overly eager that you alienate a client or a potential client, makes so much of a difference. When you come in calm, cool, and collected, hey, I think I can help you with this problem. Here's my 14-step process on how I'm going to do that. Let's see if your property qualifies. Let's see if this is something that's going to work for both of us. Don't
find solutions. Yep.
find the solution, but don't be so overly eager that you alienate the client. And I've seen it time and time again. Um, I'm training another agent right now that got too overly eager on a development and talked himself out of it because he
Mm,
just seemed like he was working too hard. And it's funny, exactly what you say, whether it's a beautiful woman or a beautiful listing or what have you, if you look too overly eager, that doesn't make any in many scenarios. Now there's some that may work, but in many scenarios, especially when it comes to luxury real estate, That doesn't work. You've got to be there to listen, there to solve the problem, but don't have that. I don't know if it's necessarily commission breath, but don't be too overly pushy or too overly ready to solve their problems. State your case the same way you would with anybody else. The funny thing about rich people versus any other people is they put their pant legs on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us.
You know, what's also interesting too is very intelligent people only need one interaction to make a determination. And so what's interesting is what I've realized, it's almost like that movie Inception, right? You can talk about something, and if they take interest in it, you only got to talk about it once. And they're going to think about it, hash it around, study it, call you on it, text you on it, ask you more about it. And it's then and there that you got them. I mean, you got them because you got them interested, and interest is 95% of the game, right? And it's so interesting. Like, you know, I'm trying to buy an expensive exotic car right now, and these guys are like beating me over the head trying to get me to sign on the dotted line. And ironically, the things that I want most are the ones that I can't get. You know, they're not calling, they're not returning my calls. They're kind of just like, it's, you know what it is, it's the price. You want it, give us a call. And I'm thinking that is very shrewd salesmanship, because I know I want this item, I'm going to get it, same as a home. How do you instigate that and teach that to your agents? That subtlety of understanding when it is to go hard and when you have to take your foot off the gas.
It's a delicate dance because it's different for different folks. And again, you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with different personalities. So a lot of it is figuring out what's important to them and figuring out what that problem is.
Yeah.
Does this solve their problem? Is this what they want? Because when you're exactly right, when you are too eager, that pushes people the wrong direction. Prime example. I mean, no one wants to be sold.
No.
No one wants to feel like they're sold. You know, when I go into a car dealership, it's one of those, and one of the reasons the dealership that I keep buying my Denali's from, and consistent with that, is I was very clear with my expectations up front. Here's the deal: if this is the color and the price is between X and X, and price not even necessarily mattering so much on the luxury side of things, but if it comes in this color, this style, here's what I want. You've already got. I'm either going to pay cash or I'll send it over an approval, whatever it is. You're not going to have to ask me those F&I questions. But here's the deal: if I'm not out of here in 60 minutes, I'm walking out, and there is no deal. Time
So
is
you set
money.
your expectations quickly.
I set
I
my
like that.
expectations up front, and I do that. I personally do that with every car deal. And so the other thing is with clients is it's set your expectations with them up front. Let them know what they can expect from you.
Yep.
Is it appropriate to call you at 11 o'clock at night? That's not the question for me to answer. That's a question for you to answer. Are you okay being bothered on those things? How do you connect with that individual? Where is that common ground? When you get to know and like and trust someone, you build that common ground to such a degree that you understand each other. As a corollary to that, I think every real estate professional should have to buy a property every 5 years so they can
Mm.
experience what their clients experience.
I agree. I agree.
You know,
You know,
it-
it's really interesting. It's funny you say that, Colin, because one of the things I always tell my agents or people I work with is they said, "Oh, how do you become a successful real estate agent?" I said, "To be honest with you, I really don't know. I'm an average real estate agent, but I'm an exceptional real estate investor. And that's made me a very good real estate agent because I'm able to showcase and share deals that I've been a part of and the avenues with which I made most of my money." And I think it's very interesting when agents are trying to hawk a house that they don't know anything about. They've never bought themselves. They don't own any real estate in that area. They're not familiar with the types of issues or problems that client might have, whether it be finances, you know, et cetera. And they're not able to relate to them because they themselves have not done it. It's a very interesting point that you made. I think all of us need to be not only landlords, but certainly homeowners. What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, it was so interesting. And a new agent that I was mentoring was coming up, and as prices were rising in our area, this was back in about 2020. She came to me. She had a property that was actually having trouble selling, which in 2020 I thought was kind of shocking. But she was offered by the seller the opportunity to buy it, and I said to her, I'm not going to say her name because she might be listening or is listening at some point. I said, you don't own a piece of real estate right now. And I said, why is that? And she, gave her reasons. And I said, well, I'll tell you, as someone who's quite a bit older than you, but who's been doing this for a while, I would have a hard time buying a car from someone who didn't own a car.
That's exactly right.
They don't understand what the maintenance issues are. They don't understand what you have to do with that specific vehicle, and so on and so forth. So, how can you expect someone to buy what is typically going to be the most expensive asset of their life to put their faith in you as their professional when you have no experience dealing with what they're about to experience?
100%.
Well,
100%.
long story short, she went and bought that house.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I got the chance to run into her the other day, and she thanked me profusely. And I said, "No, it's not me. You chose to make the jump. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You were ready.
Mm.
You
Mm-hmm.
were ready."
Mm-hmm.
I believe it might be Mr. Miyagi. I don't know. We're going back Karate Kid here a little bit, but anyways, no. All that said, there's no such thing as luck. It's when preparedness meets opportunity. If you're prepared and that opportunity comes up, then you'll be lucky. But I like to think that that's just being in the right place at the right time with that preparedness. And
Yeah,
so,
it's a,
it comes that way a lot with agents. If you're out there and you're out in front of the most amount of people, especially in this environment, you're going to succeed. The National Association of Realtors published a statistic, and I can't remember how long ago this was. It was a couple years back, that 70% of people use the first realtor they come into contact with.
wow.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, that's
That
scary.
But what that tells you is he who has the most conversations wins. And,
Yeah.
I that's probably quoting our good friend Brian Culhane to edify him for a second. Hey, he who has the most conversations wins. He or she who has the most conversations wins. Um, Being out there and being in front of people is where you'll be successful, because to go back to kind of a theme of this conversation, your network is your net worth.
I also think it's, not only that, but proximity is so powerful in the manifestation of your dreams. What's so interesting is like, I've only been to Coeur d'Alene once. And I remember all my friends were talking about Gazer, Gazer, Gazer. You got to go to Gazer, da 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 da. So my ex and I are in Idaho, and I think you'd appreciate this. And I'm trying to get over to Gazer, and of course, it's very difficult to get in there, right? Because everyone's, oh no, it's private, it's this, it's that, it's bullshit, whatever. And I said, I got away. So I walk into the nearest real estate office. My ex is like, what the hell are you doing? I said, it's time for us to go house shopping in Gazer. So I have a proof of funds for my businesses or whatever, and I walk in there and I said, here's my, I'm qualified. I want to go look at $3 or $4 million houses in Gaza. And so sure enough, the red carpet opens, they send over a boat, like they pick us up and they go over there. And we're looking through the whole thing. And my ex is like, why are you doing this? I said, well, in reality, I have absolutely no desire to buy a house in Gaza. But what I do have a reality of what I want to understand is I want to understand the lifestyle. And I think a lot of people don't get this as part of their business, right? You have to understand the home prices. You have to understand the square footage. You have to understand the architecture. You have to understand the golf club. You have to understand the type of client that's buying a home like that. You have to understand, the timepieces that they're wearing, their clothes, their cars, their food choices. All of these things, it's like so psychological and weird. But when you're in proximity to that, opportunities happen that you absolutely would have never expected that totally change the construct and the future of your life. How do you respond to that? And have your agents ever asked you about that? And what would you do in that type of environment?
In luxury real estate, it is so critical to understand what is important to your client. If you haven't picked up a Rob report before, if you don't understand, luxury appliances, if you don't understand the lifestyle, and again, just getting back to the lifestyle, I'm a lifestyle guy myself up here in Coeur d'Alene. The things I love to do, I love to play golf and I love to boat. So it puts
Right.
me in a naturally easy proximity to the types of folks that want to buy golf and waterfront properties. And so again, if you want to get involved in that market, what are your hobbies? that would coincide with someone that wants to do those things. You know, pickleball is becoming one of the hottest sports in the country. It's one of the fastest growing sports. Our little local country club over here, Hayden Lake Country Club, has an amazing pickleball setup. You know,
Right.
we're freezing to death right now, but if you want to go meet with people, one of the best places to go to is that golf simulator. You know, people are still working on their stroke, even if they can't get outside here right now. Either that or
Right.
they're flying down to your neck of the woods and really enjoying themselves. But anyways, no, all that aside, it's literally one of those things where you know, you used a phrase, not fake it till you make it. Forgive me on that one. You've got to,
Learn it
what was
until
it
you
again?
earn it.
Learn it until you earn it. Learn about the things that are important to your clientele. Learn about the things that they value, and that's how you're going to be successful. Because when you can talk at that level, when you can talk about the timepiece they're wearing, whether it's the tag or the Rolex or the Movado, if it's something a little bit more basic, what have you, understand what they're wearing, and if that's something that's important to you, you know, understand the fashion that's there. You know, if they're big in terms of cooking or whatever else, understand the difference between a Mealy and a Wolf and a DCS. And there's plenty of places where you can go. If you've got I think Ferguson's is national, go in there and chat with one of those folks. Learn about it. Learn about the lighting sides of things, why that's important for particular artwork, etc. Learn the lifestyle, and that's where you'll understand luxury. And again, it's learn it till you earn it. I like that so much better than fake it till you make it, because 90% of our business is mindset, but 10% of it's skill set. And to quote another good friend, I believe of yours and of mine, Haas Pratt, you got to be a skillionaire before you become a millionaire. Understand so much of the skill set, or understand so much about what's important to your clients, and that will make it so much easier for them to know you and like you and trust you.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's like the vision board, right? What are some things that some of your agents wish and desire when they join your team? Are there things that they're, you know, they say, Colin, I want to buy you know, a Denali. I want to buy a lake house. I want to buy a boat. What are some of the things that they dream of when they come to you and talk to you?
You know, one of the cool things, my favorite one, and he's probably listening right now, and I appreciate him, and he's a gentleman that you know as well. And you know, he was working as a petroleum engineer in Bakersfield, California, 2 years ago. And what he wanted was pretty simple: is he wanted to be home full time, and he wanted to be
Mm.
able to make $250,000 a year, and he wanted to grow his investment portfolio. That was his vision board right there. That was his vision board. And he came to me, he tracked me down, and he said, "Hey, Colin, this is my first year in real estate. You know, my industry is not looking great right now. I need to be able to make $250,000 a year. I'd like to be home with my family, and I'd like to continue growing my investment portfolio. Do you think that's possible?" And it was a very easy answer. I said, "Yes." I said, "Yes. How hard do you want to work?"
And what did you
so,
tell them to do in that instance?
so what we did is we broke down a plan. We worked it backwards. You know, you were talking about 10-year, 5-year planning. I said, okay, what's 5 years look like? What's 1 year look like? What's 6 months look like? What's a month look like? Then what does today look like? What
Mm-hmm.
do you need to do today to get to your month, year, 5-year, 10-year goals? What does that look like? What are those activities? What kind of thinking is that? How are you waking up? What's your day? What's your ritual look like? Are you going to the gym and working out? Are you doing breathing activities? Are you doing affirmations? Because your mind is the most important thing to feed. And if you're feeding it with negativity, that 90% mindset, you'll start using words like I think, or it's possible, or maybe. And those are words that don't elicit confidence. And you won't have people that want to work with you if you're not confident.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
so much of that is feeding that mindset. Be, do, have thinking. Be a certain way, have that positivity, have that belief. You will do certain things, and that will lead to the activities that will create that wealth and that lifestyle that you want to have. And I'm happy to say that he's now an icon agent as well. He's well on his way to $750,000 in gross commission income. His first year, he had $450,000 in gross commission income. And what we did is we just broke it down. What do you have to do to feed those goals? Now, again, to say with that, for him, people have to want it. If you're leading a team, if you're a business owner, if you are a team lead, if you're running a sales team, if you're a sales manager, that person in front of you has to want it more than you want it for them. That's one of the
That's so
hardest
powerful.
things. That's one of the hardest things to learn as a leader. That's one of the hardest things to learn as a leader, because you can see the good in people, you can see what they're capable of, but will they actually realize that potential?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's probably my biggest struggle, is when I
And
can
most
see what
won't.
someone.
Most won't.
Most won't. Most won't. And the tough thing is, as someone that understands the economics of time, one of my favorite little sayings is SW, 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 SW. I relate it back. Do you know that one? Have you heard that one
No.
before?
What's SW? SW.
Some will, some won't.
Mm.
So what? Someone's waiting. You've got
Ain't
to
that
you've
the
got to
truth?
keep moving. Not everybody's going to realize their full potential. And that's a tough thing for us to see as entrepreneurs. That's a tough concept to overcome. But at a certain point, we realize that, and we move forward with it.
Yeah,
And
it's
bear with me, my
interesting.
battery's kind of dying here for a second. Hold on one second. I apologize.
No problem. I'll talk to you while you're plugging your phone in. But it was interesting because last week we had Stephen Johnston in from South Africa, Cape Town. And he's our leader over in South Africa. And what he talked about, which I found really interesting, is there's a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And he said, it's interesting is the people that really have success in their lives, it has very little to do with the massive actions they take. It has everything to do with the little tweaks, those little things that we choose to do on a daily basis as part of our routine that so many people can choose to do, yet they choose not to do. Whether that be putting $100 a day into your 401k, or $100 a day into paying down your mortgage, or $100 a day into your college plan for your kid, or $100 a day in paying down debt, or working out every single day, right? These are things that we can choose to do. And most say, I don't have to do it today, I can do it tomorrow. But that's the differentiator of success. How do you respond to something like that?
Absolutely, incremental action leads to
Yep.
massive action.
Yep. And
Making
massive
those small
success.
choices. Did you drink water today? Did you drink your gallon of water today? Did you make it to the gym? Did you do cardio? Did you make your 10 phone calls?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing from a leader's perspective is not allowing any room for story. Uh,
Mm.
a man that I believe is your mentor and my mentor as well, Brian Culhane, doesn't let you get away with story.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, did you go ahead? Did you contact 10 people today? Well, wrong answer. Nope,
Yeah.
that's not. We're not going to allow that. You either did it or you didn't do it. And that's the thing as a leader is just not letting people off the hook, helping them be their best selves. You've got to hold them accountable, and not worry about the rest of everything. People that want to be successful and want to be better are okay being pushed. There was a study not too long ago, and I believe it was sports science. There were a couple of different universities that were involved, and I believe actually Duke University was involved with it. And they had two people, or they had two different groups. They had people shooting free throws with a coach that was of the Bobby Knight ilk, who screamed at him, threw chairs, got upset, told them they couldn't do it. And then they also had a happy coach that was cheering. And the objective was they had to shoot 100 free throws. Which group do you think did better?
I have no idea. You tell me.
This is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. The group that got screamed at and everything else, their average on their free throws was 8% higher than the
Mm.
encouraging side.
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
the hypothesis behind that, or I should say that what they came up with via the scientific method, is when someone's told they can't do something and they have a competitive mindset, they're going to make it happen. And
Mm-hmm.
sales is a competitive mindset.
Yeah.
No matter how we look at it, it's a competitive mindset. So if you feed yourself in such a way that you're always challenging yourself, it's going to push you to the next level. And
Yeah.
I love that what Stephen Johnson had to say. And I believe I've heard him say that before, even in another forum, where it is those small little actions moving forward that make the difference. It's those little activities that push you forward, that will lead to that massive action.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's doing less. What's the best way to get a 6-pack? Don't drink so much. Don't drink. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
Don't eat that hamburger.
Yeah.
Have that salad. Do less.
Well, and it's
And that's,
interesting too, because I think it's a mind game. You brought this up earlier, and I know a lot of people are listening in and will and talk about mindset. But it's interesting because there is no destination, right? Because the question I get asked all the time is someone says, "Oh, how does it feel like to be a millionaire?" I'm like, doesn't feel that great, to be honest with you, because once you have something, you're worried about losing it all, number one. And number two, it's like, oh, how does it feel to own or drive an expensive sports car? Doesn't feel that great, because in 3 years you're having breaking down issues and you got to turn it in and you're looking for the next thing. So the journey, and what I'm trying to like encapsulate in this, it's really important for people to realize the journey is in continual growth in your life towards what you want. There is no destination. You will not one day wake up and go, "Oh man, I have all the money in the world, I'm good. I have the most beautiful wife in the world, I'm good." It's not like that. How do you able to articulate that to your agents or your entrepreneurial circle?
the funniest thing is I talk about this. One of the things I'm working on is a book about power couples. I think I talked to you a little bit about it,
Mhm.
because it's interesting how even in my own life, how we talk about, if I only get to this, I'll be happy. If I only get to
Mhm.
this, I'll be happy. If I only get to this, I'll be happy. And doggone it, I've had a lot of those moments, and I
Yep.
got there.
Yep. Yep.
And now for me personally, it's one of those things where I want to pull people up to at least the level of success that I've reached, if
Mhm.
not a better level of success.
That's right.
Because for me, I don't determine yeah, I've hit the millionaire mark, I've hit the multimillionaire mark, blah, 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 blah. Who
Doesn't mean
cares?
anything. Yeah,
It
exactly.
means nothing to
That's
me.
right.
It
That's
means
right.
nothing to me. It's cool, but I have a 5-second celebration and I get over it. Then
Right.
it's on to the next thing. So now for me, and what's beautiful about the business that we're in and the company that we're a part of, is I get to help other people build that success. What is it? Do one, teach one. I'm trying to remember the go giver method on the fly here. It's not coming to me right away. But anyways, it's pulling other people to those heights. Tony Robbins talks about it. He talks about 2 mountains. He talks about the mountain of success, and that second mountaintop, bringing other people to that level of success. And to me, there's nothing better than getting to see people attain their dreams. That to me is the ultimate rush. That's the ultimate excitement, because you get to see people realize their potential, maybe even in ways that are better than what you even anticipated were. And so that to me, when I'm kicking that to my agents, is I use the examples of those that have already been successful, and having nothing to do with me, but edifying them in their own successes. Hey, I gave them a couple of tools, but they made it work. They're the ones that decided to put the time and effort in and make it work.
Yep.
You
You
know,
know,
it's it's
it's funny you say that, only because I really believe a winner is going to be a winner no matter what the outcome, no matter what situation they're put in. They're going to find a way to make something work and thrive. And it's funny because my biggest problem, and maybe this has to do with you too, is there's a lot of people that try to like integrate into my orbit and try to, suck me, like suck information out of me or go to events or do things with me, etc. But the most difficult thing is I know a lot of them are destined for success, right? They have the ability to be great. And for some reason, they choose not to. And in choosing not to, they don't necessarily blame you, but there's that unspoken thing of, you weren't a true leader. You didn't show me to the promised land. And what I realized was those I teach least do the most. And those that I really ingest a lot of time in and really try to help, no
Ooh,
matter
I
what I
love
do,
that.
no matter what
I
I do, they're
love
not
that.
going to reach the promised land. How do you respond to something like that?
That is perfect. That is perfect. The people that you have to pour the most time into are the ones that struggle the most,
Mm-hmm.
and many times fail to reach those levels,
Mm-hmm.
because they're counting on you to make that action. They don't want it as much for themselves as you want it for them.
Right.
I love that. That's amazing, because it dovetails back into sales. It dovetails back into luxury real estate. If you have to continually pour yourself into something, and to even simplify it a step further, if something is so incredibly difficult, and I always said this with real estate deals and with flips, if something's really, really difficult, it's time to back away from it. Who cares if you
Mm,
lost $20,000 earnest money? Who
mm-hmm.
cares? Would you rather lose $2 million on a deal? Would you rather do something that was wrong? If something's incredibly difficult, there's a time to simply realize a bad investment and cut your losses. And I hate to say that when it comes to human capital, but there are people that are out there. I've run into them. You've run into them. We've tried to coach them. We've tried to make them better, that think they've built the best mousetrap possible. God bless them. I want them to do well, whether it's
Me
with
too.
me or whether it's not with me.
Mhm.
Success is not a zero-sum game.
Yep.
People can be successful apart from me, not apart from me, and I'll still applaud them. Yeah, it's fun. It's gratifying to know when they're successful and you've helped them, and you've just made the right little tweaks. But that's not the end all be all. There's no reason not to see people be successful. But when you have people that will come to you and go, oh gosh, Michael, oh gosh, Colin, you could have done X, Y, Z, and it would have made me be, this much better. I would have had this much. I would have done this much. You know what? I don't think you had the mindset. You didn't have the right mindset. You come to me like it's me. You've got to have that right mindset. Mindset is everything. It's 90% of why you're successful in real estate. It's how you're successful when it comes to real estate coaching, being a good team lead, being a good owner, being a good business owner, being a good flipper, a good real estate investor. It's having that mindset to know where you're going. And if someone doesn't have that mindset or doesn't take the time to figure out what that looks like, it's funny. I don't think I know a single person that's been successful that way. They may have
Mm-hmm.
short-term successes, but they don't have sustained success.
Yep. Victim versus the victor, right? If you're the victim, if you're the guy or gal that has been screwed over and never worked out, or you're the person that says, yeah, I've been in a couple bad situations, but I learned a lot from it and I know what not to do next time. It's the same mentality as glass half full, glass half empty, right? And those people are the ones that, for some reason, always succeed no matter what. It's very interesting.
It's absolutely true. One of the things that I'll say, when I'm interviewing people to be a part of the team, or interviewing people that I'm going to coach, or interview people that are going to be part of my downline with an EXP. Do you have a scarcity mindset or do you have an abundance mindset?
Mm-hmm.
I may not
Mm-hmm.
always ask that question directly, but the way they talk dictates everything. I can
Mm-hmm.
figure out very, very quickly whether or not someone has an abundance or a scarcity mindset. And I'll be very frank. When I find out somebody's got a scarcity mindset, I'll try to help them, but I'm not going to bring them aboard right away.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are the time suckers, or the time vampires. I don't even know who coined that term, but it's one of my favorite because it's
Yeah.
so visual. They can bring you down they can bring you down with them. They can bring you down to their level if you're not careful. And so we have to be careful as leaders to not focus too much on them. Give them the opportunity, try to help them. But if they're going to stay stuck in that time vampire mentality or in that negative mentality, you've got to do what's best for you and the people in your orbit, and not get sucked in and spend valuable resources and time on those people that aren't ready.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one person told me is like the biggest savior in your life is always going to be yourself. So once you realize that, and once you realize no one's coming to hand you a briefcase of $1 million, no beautiful woman is going to knock on your door, or a handsome man if you're single out there, or no person is just going to seek you out to have the most amazing opportunity in your life. You have to do it yourself. It changes a lot of the ways that you think in a lot of respects.
There's no backup. There is
Yep.
no cavalry.
Yep.
No one is coming for you. There
Yep.
is no backup plan. You must succeed.
Yep. So here's a
And
question, Colin, a real quick question. If you had to give a piece of advice to those entrepreneurs or real estate agents listening in, maybe a piece of advice that you learned from someone that was important to you, a mentor, or a piece of advice that you tell your children, what is one of the main things that has really set the trajectory of your life in a positive way that you think could help them?
one little piece, if you want to narrow it down to one piece, that's tough. I think I'd have to go back to mindset.
Hmm.
Where is your mindset at? Because a lot of people think that they have to be a certain way. We talked about this earlier. They want to get to that destination, and they don't enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
If you are engaged in business and it's a business that doesn't make you want to jump out of bed every day and get to work and get excited, you're in the wrong industry. I don't care what you're doing. But if that is the way that you're doing, then and you're excited, nourish your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nourish your mind to such a degree that you have that positivity, that you are keeping your mind healthy, that you're keeping yourself, whether it's working out or whatever the case may be, in terms of that will help drive you forward. I'll never forget. I think it was actually a commencement speaker I had at for my when I graduated with my master's degree. He was I don't even remember the gentleman's name. I apologize, but he was an Army general. And one of the things he said is, "Hey, the first thing you do, get out of bed and make your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Make your bed. That's the first thing you can do. You've had a success. You had a win. Start with those little wins. Make those little incremental steps that will lead to massive action. Because if you can't do the little things right, how are you going to do the big things right?
Yeah.
Not to go biblical here, but to go to the parable of the talents. To he who much is given, much is expected. If you can do a lot, if you do well with a little, you'll do well with a lot. So if you want to attain that level of success on the little levels on those things, treat it like it's a big deal. Be successful with those little things, and that will lead to bigger and better goals. That will be the jump off point for bigger things.
Is there a quote or something that resonates with you that maybe can encapsulate our hour here together that you'd like to share with the audience?
Put me on the spot there on that one. um, kind of to maybe even stick with that, to he who much is given, much is expected. When it comes to being a successful business leader, there's going to be a lot of people that pull you in a lot of different directions. And so you've got to be prepared. You've got to have that mindset. And I know it's a soft skill, but it's so important. Those are the little things that drive you and propel you forward. Um, and for those that are struggling and that are stressed out and their business isn't going well, and to quote one that I love is Haas Pratt: all roads lead to the phone. You can't be afraid. And actually, one more to quote you: just get in the room.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, just get in the room. I don't know if you knew that, but that was something you said to me that was extremely impactful. And it's literally, get it down to the simplest form. Nike had a great one, a great motto: just do it.
Yep.
But take that one step forward. Just get in the room, whatever the situation is. Whether you're going out to Gaza Ranch or going out to Paradise Valley, Arizona, or wherever the environment is, get in the room, understand it, understand what's going on, and understand the people around you and understand the players. And the game gets the game doesn't get easier, but it's simple. You understand what you've got to do. You understand that path forward.
Well, it's interesting you mentioning that, just get in the room. I think a lot of people know, like, I've been really fortunate having talked to many, many billionaires. And I'll tell you the same thing that they say over and over and over again is no one is going to give you the permission to be successful. You just have to put yourself in that environment and seize it yourself. And the biggest thing, like you said, is whatever you want in your life, whether it's a Lamborghini, whether it's a mansion, whether it's a beautiful husband or a handsome, beautiful wife, handsome husband, or beautiful kids. You have to put yourself in that environment to say, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can tangibly see it. I know the price that it's going to take to get it, whatever it is for you. And incrementally get there. And one of the things that you said that I always tell my clients that I really agree with is write your obituary. As morbid as it sounds, if you wrote your obituary and you step back and you try to accomplish those things that you wrote about yourself, your life becomes a lot easier, because if it's not in your obit, it's not worth doing in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
I love that one. That's a great one.
where can they find you, Collin? Where can they follow you?
So I can post my link tree as well, but the easiest place to get a hold of me probably would be my Instagram, which is at make re fun again, like make real estate fun again. Additionally, you can reach out to me via my email, which is just Collin, my first name, Collin, Collin, at foundersgroupnw.com, like Founders of the Nation, and NW like Northwest. Or if you want to give me a call and send me a text, I'm at area code 208-597-3700.
Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time. And of all you listening in, if you enjoyed what Collin had to say, or you got some nuggets out of this, please share it and follow Collin, and feel free to contact him, because he's a wealth of information. And it's very rare that you get someone your age, your successful level, that wants to share those gifts with a lot of people. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Happy to be a resource. Happy to be on. Thank you so much again, Michael.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.
Take care.